The Throne of the Mechas. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1851 Sergeant Love. 3 days is too short. Although Komen explained very hard, with Xia Xingchen's comprehension, naturally he couldn't learn anything useful. Komen saw that Xia Xingchen was still confused and couldn't help but sigh. As far as comprehension is concerned, Xia Xingchen, as a human, is far inferior to Falan and Kanyu, even novice. This is also the real reason why Komen looked down on Xia Xingchen. I can't understand, how did you get promoted to the universe level with your comprehension? Your teacher is the 9th supervisor Bahuang. Is there such a big gap between him and me in teaching apprentices? No matter how he explained, Xia Xingchen looked like he didn't understand, which made Komen shake his head in his heart and even began to doubt his ability as a teacher. After all, when Xia Xingchen entered the Spacetime Academy, he was only at the galaxy level. In just a few years, he has been promoted to the universe level. In the scope of the entire Spacetime Academy, Xia Xingchen's promotion speed has surpassed most people, and he is a first-class genius in the universe. But Xia Xingchen's comprehension is very average. In Komen's opinion, the ability to feel and control energy can even be called stupid. Then, it can only be that teacher Bahuang is good. Such a stupid student can actually be promoted to the universe level in a short period of time, and even make it into the top 10 of the Spacetime Academy. In Komen's opinion, it is all Bahuang's credit. Xia Xingchen can also feel that Komen is very disappointed with him, and immediately said, the junior is dull, and has troubled the senior. Komen shook his head slowly, and said nothing more. 3 days later, the day of the competition has arrived. Xia Xingchen, although your chances of winning are very slim, but you still have to cheer. Don't die. I hope you can come back alive. Yes, don't die. We are waiting for you. The students who gave up were not optimistic about Xia Xingchen, but they all admired his courage and cheered him up. Mo Tong also came over and patted Xia Xingchen on the shoulder. Boy, I can't go to the stadium to cheer for you. No matter what happens, win or lose, come back alive. If you die, I will not be able to see your teacher in the future. Thank you, uncle. I will definitely come back alive, Xia Xingchen said with a smile. Xia Xingchen, time is running out. We should go to the competition venue. Komen said. Yeah. Xia Xingchen nodded, followed Komen out of the station, and walked into a cylindrical elevator. Swish. The elevator rose and instantly reached the top of the Tower of Order. Xia Xingchen, I wish you good luck. Komen patted Xia Xingchen on the shoulder, and walked to the audience seats on the side. This is a circular arena with a huge central arena, covering more than 10,000 square meters. Surrounding it are layers of audience seats, which can accommodate more than 100,000 people. But the audience seats are almost empty, with only a few people sitting. These people are the leaders of the 6 holy places. Each of them is a big shot who can shake the universe with a stomp of his foot. Komen walked to a secluded corner and sat down, but he didn't even look at the other leaders. Komen has always been arrogant. With his record, he naturally doesn't need to take other leaders seriously. What are you so arrogant about? A weirdo with bandages all over his body looked at Komen coldly. He was Frank, the leader of the Samsara Cemetery, with a look of disdain. The 2 strongest players of the Spacetime Academy were killed, and the remaining 7 players gave up. Only this one is left. His face is swollen, but he still dares to be so arrogant. It's ridiculous. Yes. The Spacetime Academy has been scared out of its wits by the Tower of Order. This Komen must be wishing he could go down himself. The other leaders also laughed at him. The record of the Spacetime Academy's 3 defeats a few days ago has spread in the circle. Komen, the leader of the Spacetime Academy, was naturally the first to bear the brunt, and became the laughingstock of everyone. Komen heard the ridicule of these people clearly, and he was very annoyed, but he could do nothing about it. After all, what they said was the truth. It is natural to be ridiculed for not being as skilled as others. Xia Xingchen hopes you can fight for your courage. Komen originally had no hope for Xia Xingchen, But in the face of these people's ridicule, he couldn't help but have a hope in his heart, hoping that Xia Xingchen could win this game and slap these people in the face. Of course, Komen also knew that his hope was very slim. After watching the 3 games the day before yesterday, Komen had to admit that the Spacetime Academy had been left far behind by several other holy places, especially the Tower of Order. At this time, 3 figures emerged from above the stadium, and they did not land, just standing in the air, looking down at the ground. The 3 people were all wearing black military uniforms, military caps, and long boots, exuding a chilling aura. Fallen. Sergeant Lev. The Fallen are here to watch the battle. The leaders of the 6 holy places saw the 3 figures in military uniforms, and did not dare to neglect them. They stood up, and bowed to them with a very respectful attitude. Even the arrogant Dark Sower Komen stood up, and bowed to the 3 people. The 3 Fallen just nodded slightly in response. The leading Fallen was a human with a short beard. There were crisscrossing scars on his face, which added a bit of iron and blood. He was the leader of the 3 Fallen, Sergeant Lev. Are they the Fallen? Xia Xingchen looked up at the 3 Fallen and smelled the strong smell of blood and gunpowder from them. The energy fluctuations on the Fallen were not strong. At least Xia Xingchen was under Sergeant Lev, and could stand steadily even without driving the mecha. But this is the horror of the Fallen. The energy control of these 3 Fallen ones was clearly extremely terrifying, and they could even hide the energy fluctuations perfectly. As far as Xia Xingchen knew, even the Dark Sower Komen, who was said to be invincible under the gods of the universe, could not control the energy to such a perfect level. Horror. The strength of the Fallen ones is indeed terrifying. What's more terrifying is that they are not a single person, but an organization and a legion. They are the most powerful military organization in the universe. Xia Xingchen's eyes revealed a strong desire. He longed to surpass his limits, become stronger, and become a Fallen One warrior. Let's start. Sergeant Love's eyes swept over Xia Xingchen, and seeing the desire in his eyes, he couldn't help but think of himself when he was young, and smiled and nodded to Xia Xingchen. The game begins. Spacetime Academy number 37 vs. Samsara Cemetery number 43. A cosmic level strongman from the Tower of Order announced hurriedly. Xia Xingchen's battle officially began. Chapter 1852 Stitched Monster. Xia Xingchen's opponent was a cosmic level strongman from the Samsara Cemetery. Roar, roar, roar. Waves of terrifying roars came from underground, and the center of the ring sank, revealing a huge passage. Bang! A huge monster 100 meters tall jumped up from below, and the earth trembled. It stinks. The moment the monster appeared, a strong stench surged, causing Xia Xingchen's breathing to stagnate. He could not help but cover his mouth and nose and look intently. The body of the monster was actually stitched together from countless corpses. The stitches were rough, and even sticky intestines and green bile fell out, falling on the ring, corroding into streams of green smoke. The monster held a hook-lock sickle in his hand, and his ugly face was full of disdain. Is this the stitched monster that Senior Komen mentioned? Looking at this extremely ugly monster that exuded a foul smell, Xia Xingchen couldn't help but frown, and instinctively felt disgusted. During the 3 days of Komen's guidance, although Xia Xingchen did not learn any useful cosmic secrets, he learned about the strong men in other holy places from him, which was also a gain. The stitched monster is a cosmic level strong man in the Samsara Cemetery. The Samsara Cemetery masters the secrets of life and death, and can bring life back to life. This stitched monster is a collection of many cosmic level strong men's corpses collected by the Samsara Cemetery, pieced together, and then resurrected using the secret of life. It can be said that the stitched monster is a complete monster. You are all cowards in the Spacetime Academy. Just 2 failures, and the others are scared to give up, cowardly as mice. The stitched monster laughed coldly, and the huge body actually made a shrill female voice, which made people feel creepy. Xia Xingchen did not answer, silently boarded the mecha, and stared at the stitched monster. Whoosh! The moment Xia Xingchen boarded the faith mecha, the stitched monster suddenly attacked, and threw the hook sickle in his hand. Xia Xingchen was startled and dodged quickly, but the hook sickle still cut a hole in the right arm of the faith mech, revealing the circuit underneath. Coward, you're so slow to react. The stitched monster succeeded in one move, and a strange smile appeared on its ferocious face. It twisted its bloated body and pressed towards Xia Xingchen, looking determined to win. Haha, this stitched monster was made by me. I collected corpses, infused souls into it, and gave it life. In the stands, Franken laughed and boasted to other leaders. The life secrets mastered by the Samsara Cemetery are really powerful. They can actually revive this monster made of corpses. The Temple of Light is a tall human woman with a pair of white wings behind her, and a holy light on her face. Although she felt disgusted with ugly things, she had to admit that the life secrets were fully displayed on the stitched monster. It's really powerful. I think the Mecha Master of the Spacetime Academy will definitely lose. Another leader laughed, and he was not optimistic about Xia Xingchen either. After all, the 3 strongest people in the Spacetime Academy were all defeated. According to the information in hand, Xia Xingchen was only ranked 7th in the Spacetime Academy. It's good to lose, just in time for all the Spacetime Academy to return home. Only our 5 holy places are left to compete for the last 3 places. The leader of the Dark Abyss also had a strange smile on his face. They did not deliberately lower their voices, and these sarcastic words fell clearly into Koman's ears, like needles. Xingchen, come on. Koman couldn't help but clench his fists tightly, cheering for Xia Xingchen in his heart. Above the ring, the 3 fallen watched the game on the ring with interest. Corporal Allen, Corporal Mueller, tell me, who is the winner of this game? Sergeant Love smiled. I think the stitched monster will win. The life energy in his body is very strong, and it is difficult to kill. The Mecha Master on the other side has much weaker life energy. Once caught by the stitched monster, he will definitely die. Corporal Allen thought for a while and said seriously, I think that Mech Master can win. The energy he exudes is very special. I have never seen it before. Corporal Mueller said seriously. The 2 people disagreed, each holding their own opinion, and even quarreled. Haha, I agree with Mueller. I think that Mech Master can win, and it will be very easy to win. Sergeant Love said. Why? Corporal Allen looked strange. Because the energy of that Mech Master is much stronger than that of the stitched monster. It's just that he is hiding his strength. This little trick can deceive others, but it can't deceive me. Sergeant Love raised his eyebrows and showed a strange smile on his face. Do you want to bet? This? Corporal Allen obviously hesitated. He knew that his boss was good at everything, but he was a gambler by nature. No matter what happened, he would find ways to bet, and he always won every time he gambled. Although Corporal Allen couldn't see why the Mech Master would win. But since Sergeant Love said it, there must be a reason. Faced with this losing bet, Corporal Allen naturally had no interest and said immediately, although I don't think this Mech Master will win, let's forget about the bet. How boring. Sergeant Love looked disappointed and turned his eyes back to the ring. On the ring, the stitched monster continued to launch fierce attacks on Xia Xingchen, throwing hooksicles, spitting acid, releasing a large cloud of poison. It seemed that the stitched monster had the upper hand, and Xia Xingchen could only drive the mech to dodge in a panic. However, the stitched monster felt more and more uneasy, because he knew very well that his attacks seemed fierce, but all of them fell into the air and none of them hit. How is this possible? The stitched monster was uneasy and looked at Xia Xingchen in surprise. It's just as I expected. On the other side, Xia Xingchen also confirmed one thing through the brief fierce battle just now. The strength of the stitched monster is far below his own. I didn't give up. It seems that the bet was right. A smile appeared on the corner of Xia Xingchen's mouth. The reason why he did not give up and chose to continue fighting, besides that he really couldn't give up, was actually a little confident in his heart. It was incredible that Fallon and Kanai were defeated and died on the stage. Their strength was obvious to all, but they couldn't even pass the first round. Obviously, the Tower of Order had done something when drawing lots. The 3 strongest opponents were arranged with the purpose of crushing the morale of the Spacetime Academy in one fell swoop. In fact, the Tower of Order's means were very successful, scaring other students to give up and not dare to participate in the next battle. However, even in the Tower of Order, there are only a limited number of masters who can match Fallon and Kanai. Xia Xingchen ranked 7th in the Spacetime Academy, so he was naturally not qualified to attract the attention of the Tower of Order. Therefore, Xia Xingchen's opponent was not specially arranged, but an ordinary cosmic level strongman from the Samsara Cemetery. Facing the stitched monster, Xia Xingchen was sure to win. He was even confident that he could kill it in one move. However, Xia Xingchen hid his strength and fought back and forth with the stitched monster. In the eyes of several team leaders, it was simply a fight between weaklings. Since the Tower of Order manipulated the draw, they will definitely prioritize eliminating the enemy who poses the greatest threat to them. The worse I show, the less they will care. Maybe they can let me get through a few more rounds. Xia Xingchen had already made plans in mind. Chapter 1853, Narrow Victory. Xia Xingchen drove the Faith Mech and fought with the stitched monster in the ring for several hours. The Mech was covered with scars, and the entire right arm was scrapped. Xia Xingchen's face was also covered with blood. Finally, he condensed a black drill and smashed the body of the stitched monster to pieces, winning. The winner is the 37th contestant of the Spacetime Academy. The voice of Xia Xingchen's victory rang out in the ring. Win. Komen was quite excited, clenched his fists tightly, and stood up. This was the first victory of the Spacetime Academy, and it was of great significance. Komen did not expect that the winner was Xia Xingchen, whom he had always been pessimistic about. However, the strength of this stitched monster is in the middle and lower level among the 60 contestants. Xia Xingchen's victory was largely due to luck. Looking at the several hours he fought with the stitched monster, his strength is indeed very ordinary. With such strength, if he encounters a strong man from the Tower of Order, he will definitely lose. Xia Xingchen's acting skills are excellent, and even Komen was deceived. In addition to being happy, Komen was deeply worried about Xia Xingchen's next game. They let the Spacetime Academy win a game. Frank, the leader of the Samsara Cemetery, was dismayed. He snorted coldly and left the competition venue. The Spacetime Academy was lucky to win this game. However, their good luck ends here. I think the 37th Mecha division will definitely lose the next game. The leaders of other holy places were also deceived by Xia Xingchen and thought that his strength was just like that and he would definitely not win the second game. Fortunately, I didn't bet with the sergeant. Corporal Allen of the Fallen Legion was relieved. The commander has a sharp eye. I saw that this Mech division only won by a small margin, but you could see it. A small margin? Sergeant Love shook his head slowly with a smile on his face. Alan, you were also deceived. I said that this Mech division was hiding its strength. He was really patient. He injured it and fought with that dirty and smelly corpse for a long time. If it were me, I would have been unable to bear it and directly burst out energy to kill the monster instantly. Commander, are you saying that this Mech division has the ability to kill the patching monster instantly? Alan and Mueller were both shocked. What? You don't believe it? Do you want to bet? Sergeant Love's gambling addiction came back, and he rubbed his fingers subconsciously. Of course not. Isn't it okay for us to believe it? The two corporals were speechless. You two are so boring. Sergeant Love was very helpless and shrugged his shoulders. Besides that, I found something interesting about this Mech master. What's interesting? Corporal Allen asked curiously. Look, this is a badge on the chest of his Mech. Does it look familiar to you? Sergeant Love flicked his fingers, and his mental power condensed into a picture, which was Xia Xingchen's Faith Mech. He specially enlarged the position of the chest, so that his two men could see it more clearly. There was a single eye painted on the badge, which looked a little weird. Could this badge be? Corporal Allen exclaimed, isn't this the badge of the 7th Legion? How come this kid has the badge of our Fallen? Is he a Fallen? But if he is a Fallen, why did he come to participate in the Fallen selection competition? To be precise, it is the badge of His Excellency Yusulan, the commander of the 7th Legion. According to my speculation, he is very likely to have inherited His Excellency Yusulan. However, he has not passed the final test and has not yet become a formal Fallen. Sergeant Love said slowly. He is indeed an interesting little guy. The two corporals suddenly realized. Haha, this little guy seems to be unaware of some of the rules of the Fallen. I will tell him after he fights a few more games. Sergeant Love smiled. He is likely to become our companion. We can't let him have any accidents. You two, go and protect him secretly in the next few days. Yes, sir. The two corporals stood straight and saluted in a standard military salute. Xia Xingchen returned to the base and was immediately surrounded by other students. Xia Xingchen, you won this game and brought honor to our Spacetime Academy. Haha, I knew you could do it. Xia Xingchen, keep up the good work in the next game. The students all smiled and congratulated Xia Xingchen. Xingchen, you really did not disappoint my expectations of you. Tong walked over, patted Xia Xingchen on the shoulder, and smiled. Thank you everyone. Xia Xingchen thanked them one by one. Xia Xingchen just fought with the strong men from the Samsara cemetery for a long time, and is very tired. Let him rest. We still need to prepare for tomorrow's game. Koman stepped forward and said. Xia Xingchen then got away, and returned to his room to rest. In the base Tong was a little worried. He pulled Koman aside and asked, I didn't watch the game, so I don't know the strength of both sides. In your opinion, how many rounds can Xia Xingchen win? If he's lucky, he can win 3 rounds, but he will never win the 4th round. Koman shook his head slowly and said helplessly, it's not that I look down on him. It's just that I've witnessed with my own eyes how terrifying the strength of the 2 members of the Tower of Order who killed Fallon and Kanayu in seconds. Xia Xingchen can't be their opponent. So, this year's quota for the fallen angels has already been decided by the Tower of Order? Tong's face was filled with anger. They actually dared to manipulate the draw. Do they really think that other holy places are fools? It's too dirty. Manipulating the draw is indeed ugly. But in the final analysis, we are not as skilled as others. If Fallon and Kanayu are strong enough, what does the Tower of Order have to fear? Koman shook his head. The problem is Xingchen. You've seen that the courage and strength he displayed are extraordinary. He's just too young and doesn't have time to improve his strength. If he is given 100 to 200 years, he will definitely become the strongest person in the universe. By then, when he comes to participate in the Fallen trial, it will be a sure win. In fact, he is not in a hurry. Tong said in annoyance, I don't want a genius like him to die in this dirty game. Neither do I. Koman said, but Xia Xingchen is very stubborn. Can you persuade him to give up? I'll give it a try. If he doesn't listen and insists on participating in the competition, then there's nothing we can do. Tong looked helpless and sighed. Our Spacetime Academy has finally produced several geniuses, but they all died in this competition. I think the Tower of Order had planned this long ago. They controlled the draw not only to undermine our morale, but also to weaken the future strength of the Spacetime Academy. If Xia Xingchen also died, it would be impossible for the Spacetime Academy to produce geniuses like Xia Xingchen, Fallon, and Kanayu within 100 years. By then, the Spacetime Academy would really be in decline. Chapter 1854 Waiver. Ding, ding, ding. Tong knocked on Xia Xingchen's door. Come in. Tong pushed the door open after hearing Xia Xingchen's voice. In the middle of the room stood a huge mecha. Xia Xingchen was flying up and down, constantly adjusting the performance of the Faith mecha to keep it in peak condition. It turned out to be Master Tong. Xia Xingchen saw that it was Tong, wiped the sweat off his face, jumped off the mecha, pointed his finger, and a jar of fine wine appeared on the table. He smiled and said, Master, you want me to drink with you? You are just like your master, both are alcoholics. Tong was a little helpless. He sat at the table and drank with Xia Xingchen for a while. His expression gradually became serious, and he talked about business. Xingchen, listen to my advice and give up. You have won a game for the Spacetime Academy, and it is the only game. It is not shameful to give up now. Master, why are you the same as them, always persuading me to give up? Isn't this just boosting others' ambitions and destroying your own prestige? Xia Xingchen frowned slightly, looking unhappy. Because I don't want you to die. Tong said, you have a bright future. Why put yourself in danger because of a momentary impulse? Only those who know how to advance and retreat are truly strong. Xia Xingchen sighed, stared at Tong, and said seriously, Master, I understand all the truths you said. Do you think I don't want to retreat? There is only one life. Who doesn't cherish his own life? But there is no way out behind me, and the only way is to move forward bravely. Or, Master, can you show me a clear way? This Tong was silent. He knew what Xia Xingchen was thinking. He heard Bahuang mention it, and knew that Xia Xingchen had a heavy responsibility. He also knew that Xia Xingchen had no choice. However, he had seen the future. If Xia Xingchen continued to insist, he would definitely die on the stage. This was a dilemma, a dead end with no future. Even a supervisor like Emotong had seen the birth and death of countless lives, the rise and fall of countless races, and even the birth and end of the universe. However, he could not show Xia Xingchen a clear way. This was beyond Emotong's ability. Xingchen, listen to your heart. I still hope you can give up. There is always hope when you are alive. If you die, it will be the end of everything. Emotong grabbed the wine glass on the table, drank it all, and left the room without saying anything more. Is being alive hope? Xia Xingchen looked at the empty glass on the table with a bitter smile on his face. I'm still alive, but why is it so dark in front of my eyes? Xia Xingchen did not listen to Emotong's advice, and participated in the second round of the competition. In this round of competition, Xia Xingchen seemed to have good luck. His opponent was a strong man from the Temple of Light, an angel with a giant sword of holy light. After a fierce battle, Xia Xingchen won very hard, but he still won in the end. However, after this battle, Xia Xingchen did not hide his strength at all, and he barely won, after playing all his cards. Through this battle, Xia Xingchen has realized how big the gap is between himself and the strong men in other holy places, especially the Tower of Order. In the next battle, maybe I will really die. In the Faith Mecha, Xia Xingchen's face was covered with blood, and there was a bitter smile on the corner of his mouth. Tower of Order. Hey, the only one from the Spacetime Academy has made it through 2 rounds of battle. A man with a golden glow all over his body and a face as exquisite as a statue looked at the information in his hand and couldn't help but marvel. It's just 2 rounds. What's so strange about it? A bald man with black tattoos all over his body sat on the sofa, threw the fruit on the table into his mouth, and smiled coldly. It's nothing strange. I just find it annoying. The Eternal God has ordered me to get rid of him. A warrior of the Eternal God clan smiled lightly. In the next game, arrange for me to fight him. Let me see what this Mecha Master who once destroyed the Elder has. Morrissey, you want to do it yourself? The other 2 were surprised, but he is only the 7th rank Mecha Master of the Spacetime Academy, a bug. Even if we ignore him, he will lose in the next game. Morrissey is the strongest warrior of the Eternal God clan and the strongest person in the Tower of Order. Morrissey has already selected one of the 3 fallen angels. In the first round of the game, he was also the one who killed Ferrin in seconds. I don't just want him to lose. I want him to die. Morrissey sneered. Anyway, arrange the draw according to what I said. The grudge between the Eternal Protoss and him has lasted for many years. It's time to put an end to it. The third round of the game. Xia Xingchen has come to the rest area below the ring. He only needs to pass through the long passage in front of him to face the third round of the game. Koman has already told Xia Xingchen in advance that the opponent in this game is the murderer who killed Fallon. Xia Xingchen is not familiar with Fallon and has no intention of avenging Fallon, but he knows what Koman means. The enemy is very strong, and he hopes he can give up. Give up? At this point, how can I give up? Xia Xingchen shook his head and smiled bitterly, driving the mecha through the passage, ready to step into the arena. At this moment, a figure slowly walked over, wearing a neat military uniform, a military cap, and military boots. His every move was swift and resolute, with a bit of iron-blooded meaning. It was Sergeant Low with the Fallen Legion. Player number 37, I want to talk to you. Sergeant Love didn't even know Xia Xingchen's name, he only knew his number, but his expression was extremely serious. Okay. Xia Xingchen was slightly startled. He never thought that Sergeant Love would suddenly come to him. Since Sergeant Love had spoken, Xia Xingchen certainly couldn't guess. When the Tower of Order learned that Sergeant Love had asked Xia Xingchen to talk, it immediately postponed the time of the game. The face of the Fallen was more important than anything else, so the Tower of Order didn't dare to say much. Back in the rest area, Sergeant Love said straight to the point, Xia Xingchen, I want you to give up the next game. Why? Xia Xingchen's eyes widened, his face full of disbelief. Xia Xingchen could understand if others came to persuade him. But why did Sergeant Love also come to persuade him to give up? It's very simple. Even if you win the game and become the top 3, you can't become a Fallen. Sergeant Love smiled. That means your fight is meaningless. What do you mean? Meaningless? Sir, I really don't understand. Xia Xingchen was stunned. His mind was blank. Haha, don't worry. Sergeant Love pointed to the eyeball badge on the chest of the Faith Mech. That's the badge of Lord Yusulan. You should have obtained his inheritance and passed several rounds of trials before you can get his recognition. That's right. Xia Xingchen nodded. You may not know the meaning of this badge. With this badge, you are already a reserve member of the 7th Legion of the Fallen. Strictly speaking, you are already a Fallen. So what's the point of you participating in the Fallen trial? Sergeant Love said lightly. I'm already a Fallen? Xia Xingchen was struck by lightning and froze on the spot. Chapter 1855 The End of Time. Yes, you are already a Fallen. However, you are a reserve Fallen, which is an embarrassing existence among the Fallen. Sergeant Love said. Why is it embarrassing? Xia Xingchen asked. You don't have the privileges of a Fallen. The Fallen Corps will not recognize your identity. Moreover, you cannot participate in any Fallen selection. Sergeant Love spread his hands and said. Xia Xingchen was speechless and thought for a while. Isn't this a trap? Instead of this, I might as well give up my status as a reserve Fallen. Give it up. If you give it up, it would be too stupid. No matter how embarrassing the status of a reserve Fallen is, there are still some privileges. Sergeant Love smiled. What privileges? Xia Xingchen's eyes lit up and asked quickly. First, you have the right to enter the End of Time. Second, you can enter the Fallen Angel base and use the Fallen Angel training facilities to enhance your strength. Third, you can at least know in advance how to spare the future of the universes. When it comes to the third, Sergeant Love's face also showed a bitter smile. Of course, you can also not use these 3 privileges and continue to enter the trial of Lord Yusulan. After passing the trial, you will be a formal Fallen Angel warrior. Enter the End of Time. Xia Xingchen frowned slightly and asked, how can I get to the End of Time? I can send someone to take you there. Sergeant Love smiled. This is your right. Then, can I go back to the present timeline? Xia Xingchen continued to ask. Of course. If you don't die in the future. Sergeant Love shrugged. Although the reservists don't need to participate in formal combat, there are always some reconnaissance missions for you to do. You may die in the mission. Who knows? Anyway, that is the end of the universe, and everyone will die. Okay. I promise to go to the End of Time with you. Xia Xingchen nodded without thinking too much. I think I can definitely return to this timeline alive. I don't know your name yet. Sergeant Love said. Sir, my name is Xia Xingchen. Xia Xingchen, a human from the Milky Way. Xia Xingchen saluted. Congratulations, Reserve Soldier Xia Xingchen. You will follow me to the End of Time and experience the deepest darkness. All your whereabouts are top secret. No one will know where you are going, including your family, until you are qualified to return to this timeline. Otherwise, you will disappear forever to others. Do you understand? Sergeant Love said seriously. Sir, I understand. Xia Xingchen's eyes were firm. Well, you go back with Corporal Mueller first. I'll be there soon. Sergeant Love put his right hand on Xia Xingchen's shoulder. Xia Xingchen's figure gradually faded and disappeared into thin air. Morik, a strong man from the Tower of Order, waited on the ring for a long time, but Xia Xingchen still did not appear. He seemed a little anxious. Xia Xingchen gave up. Sergeant Love announced the news personally. Coward. He gave up. Morik's face flushed slightly, and he was a little angry. Xia Xingchen gave up, which meant that Morik could not kill Xia Xingchen on the ring. He could not complete the task assigned to him by the Eternal God. Well, when I become a fallen angel, I will not take the Eternal God seriously. Morik showed a sneer on his face. Xia Xingchen fled without a fight. He fled in the face of battle? Impossible. How could he escape? In the Spacetime Academy, everyone was stunned when they heard the news that Xia Xingchen escaped in the face of battle. Mo Tong couldn't believe it the most. His face was full of shock. He shouted repeatedly, impossible. I know Xia Xingchen's character. If he wanted to give up, he would have given up long ago. Deserting at the last minute is not his style. But, he did disappear. Coleman whispered. Where is the surveillance? The Tower of Order has the most advanced surveillance equipment in the universe. Every corner is under surveillance. How did Xia Xingchen escape? Is there a record of him leaving? Mo Tong asked. No. The news from the Tower of Order said that the surveillance was broken at that time. Coleman said, "Conspiracy. This is a conspiracy. Xia Xingchen has fallen into the hands of the Tower of Order and has even died. I want to apply to my superiors to investigate this matter thoroughly." Mo Tong was stunned for a while and shouted loudly, "I agree with your opinion." Coleman thought for a while and nodded slightly. Although Fallon and Kanai also died miserably, but they died on the ring and died in a fair fight. But what happened to Xia Xingchen? He just disappeared out of thin air? Anyone would have a conspiracy theory, thinking that Xia Xingchen was secretly dealt with by the Tower of Order. But Coleman was a little shocked. The Tower of Order was so bold that it secretly dealt with the contestants before they stepped onto the stage. Did they really not take the other holy places seriously? In short, Coleman and Mo Tong were extremely angry and reported what happened here to the upper echelons of the Spacetime Academy. The Spacetime Academy was shocked and immediately sent an investigation team to thoroughly investigate the matter. The other holy places had already found that they were no match for the Tower of Order, so they took the opportunity to add fuel to the flames and made public the fact that the Tower of Order manipulated the draw. At this point, the despicable behavior of the Tower of Order was completely exposed, and it was difficult to get off the tiger. It could only accept the punishment of the other 5 holy places and cancel the qualifications of all the contestants of the Tower of Order. In the end, the 3 places in this year's Fallen selection fell into the hands of the contestants of the 3 holy places of Samsara Cemetery, Light Temple, and Dark Abyss. Morrissey and the other 2 had already secured the qualification of Fallen, but because of this, they lost everything. This incident was later called the Xia Xingchen incident and had a far-reaching impact, even affecting the structure of the 6 holy places. The Tower of Order, which was originally in the limelight, fell into a slump because of this incident. Several other holy places, including the old-fashioned Academy of Spacetime, took the opportunity to rise again, and their momentum once again surpassed the Tower of Order. However, Xia Xingchen, the fuse of this incident, disappeared forever. Even if the 6 holy places spent countless manpower and resources, they could not find any trace of him. How Xia Xingchen left the Tower of Order and where he is now once became one of the 10 major mysteries of the universe. It was not until 20 years later that news about Xia Xingchen was heard again in the remote starfield of the Milky Way. However, this cosmic mystery is still unsolved because no one knows where Xia Xingchen has been in these 20 years. Chapter 1856, Invasion of the Galaxy. 20 years later. Eternal Star, Eternal Temple. It's been 20 years, and there's still no news about Xia Xingchen. The Eternal Lord frowned and muttered to himself, "I have explored the past and the future along the timeline, and with the help of the supercomputer of the Universal Company, I have been constantly deducing the whereabouts of Xia Xingchen, but I have found nothing. Could it be that he is really dead? But I must find him alive or dead, and the fragment of the creation artifact Source of Faith on his body must be found." Source of Faith. The Eternal Lord's face showed desire, and his eyes were full of greed. The Eternal God clan has accumulated for tens of thousands of years, but all the accumulation is not as good as the Source of Faith. If I can get the Source of Faith, I may be promoted to become a new cosmic god. Even create the 7th Holy Land. The Eternal God Lord muttered to himself, Xia Xingchen has the Source of Faith, condensing the faith of the entire human race. With good luck, how can he die easily? Maybe he has a super jump device and escaped from the Tower of Order to some hidden cosmic secret realm, such as the Misty Sea. In short, as long as humans are not destroyed, Xia Xingchen must still be alive. If you want to kill Xia Xingchen, you must first destroy humans. I just need to destroy the humans in the Milky Way according to the original plan, and 9 out of 10 times I can force Xia Xingchen out. Even if he doesn't come out, he will become a waste without the Source of Faith, and there is no need to worry. The Eternal God Lord showed a sneer on his face. In order to attack the Milky Way, the Eternal God clan has prepared for 20 years. Now it's time to invade. In the past 20 years, in addition to searching for Xia Xingchen's traces throughout the universe, the Eternal God clan has been arranging matters to attack the Milky Way. Attacking a remote and desolate frontier galaxy is a piece of cake for the Eternal God clan. Every Eternal Protoss warrior has to destroy several galaxies every year. The native organisms, social ecology and technological level in the galaxies are very primitive in the eyes of the celestial beings. Moreover, as long as there have been no celestial beings in these galaxies, or if there have been celestial beings, but no application has been submitted to the Celestial Being Committee, then the lives in these galaxies are no different from wild beasts in the eyes of the celestial beings, and they can be killed if they want. Even if it is genocide, no one will ask. But the Milky Way is different. Xia Xingchen is not only a celestial being, he has applied to the Celestial Being Committee for the protection of his companions, and he is also a senior student of the Spacetime Academy. The eternal Protoss attack on the Milky Way is not only against the will of the world, but will also attract criticism from other peace-loving races, and it also depends on the attitude of the Spacetime Academy. The original plan of the Eternal Godlord was to let the Tower of Order come forward to suppress the Spacetime Academy. As for other cosmic races, the Eternal Protoss, as one of the 10 top races in the universe, naturally does not take them seriously. However, due to the influence of the Xia Xingchen incident, the Tower of Order became the target of public criticism, and its prestige fell to the bottom, and it could not suppress the Spacetime Academy. In desperation, the Eternal Godlord could only spend a lot of resources to buy off the 2 holy places of the Samsara Cemetery and the Dark Abyss. The 3 holy places suppressed the Spacetime Academy at the same time, leaving the Spacetime Academy with no time to split up. After preparing for a full 20 years, the Eternal God Clan finally made arrangements and prepared to invade the Milky Way in an all-out manner. There is no wall that is impenetrable. The Eternal God Clan's invasion of the Milky Way was so loud that it could not be hidden from several supervisors such as Bahuang and Emotong. On the top of the Green Mountain, Supervisor number 2 Koman, Supervisor number 5 Emotong, Supervisor number 7, and Supervisor number 9 Bahuang gathered together. This time they did not drink, and they all frowned and looked angry. I received news that the Eternal Protoss will soon attack the Milky Way. Emotong said angrily, it's really too much. They don't take us seriously at all. This day has finally come. Bahuang smiled bitterly, looked up at the blue sky, his eyes were slightly empty, and murmured, Xingchen, the future you are worried about, although it is a few years late, it has finally happened. Sure enough, it is not an easy thing to change the conclusion of the timeline. Observing the timeline, the universe level strong with the ability to predict can do it. However, it is only predictive. It is not an easy thing to change the future. The more significant the event is, the more difficult it is to change it. For example, the end of the war, the ending is related to the survival of the universe. In order to change the dark and desperate ending, several powerful people such as the Old Man of Time and Space even traveled through time and space back to the beginning of the universe, and spent tens of billions of years to lay out, just to change the dark ending, that could not be changed. It is so difficult for the powerful cosmic to change the future, let alone Xia Xingchen. The expressions of several supervisors also dimmed. According to their observations, the eternal gods will flatten the Milky Way in just a few days, and mankind will be destroyed, and no one can stop it. Even if Xia Xingchen, who has been missing for 20 years, returns, it will be of no use. Xia Xingchen has the source of faith, and there are infinite possibilities for growth. But his growth takes time. Seeing this, the eternal gods are so anxious to attack the Milky Way. One is to force Xia Xingchen out and snatch the source of faith. The second is to strangle Xia Xingchen, a big worry, in the cradle. If Xia Xingchen is allowed to grow, one day an ant will be able to shake a tree. In just 20 years, Xia Xingchen has grown to the peak of the universe at most. Facing the eternal godlord alone, Xia Xingchen may still have the strength to fight. However, Xia Xingchen is facing the top 10 peak races in the universe, who have created a huge eternal empire, and have a huge race with millions of years of accumulation, the eternal gods. With the power of one person, even if Xia Xingchen is a god of the universe, it is impossible to compete with a race with a deep accumulation. Our several supervisors sighed. Although they wanted to help humans, they were all supervisors. Supervisors could not interfere with the iron laws of the universe, and no supervisor could transcend them. Even the Dark Soa Koman, who was known as invincible under the gods of the universe, was helpless at this moment. They could only watch humans being destroyed by the Eternal Protoss, just like the countless races that the Eternal Protoss had destroyed. Since you can only watch, then I will go. Carlos stood up. You, with your strength, can you resist the attack of the Eternal Protoss? Coman shook his head slowly, his eyes swept over Carlos. In the eyes of this great dark sewer, Carlos's strength was too small, like a grain of cosmic dust. At least, I can go back and report the news. Let humans prepare. Maybe I can protect Princess Crossing and Xia Xingchen's relatives and friends to escape. I know that there is almost no point in doing this, but this is the only thing I can do, which is better than doing nothing. Carlos showed a hint of stubbornness in his eyes. Chapter 1857. Bad news. After hearing Carlos' words, all the supervisors fell into silence. After a long time, Bahuang looked at Carlos and slowly spoke. Carlos, you should have learned from Xingchen what will happen in the future. You will die on the way to rescue the Milky Way, and according to the trend of future development, your death is absolutely unchangeable. Before Xingchen left, he entrusted you to me. Since I have promised him, I will definitely guarantee your safety. Therefore, you can't go. No matter what you say, I will keep you here. Senior, I know what you said, but since the future is already determined, what's the point of you keeping me here? I will definitely go to rescue the Milky Way. Even if you disagree, I will definitely go. This is a paradox. Since we can't change anything, let's accept the future calmly. Carlos said with red light flashing in his eyes. Indeed, this is a famous time-space paradox. Bahuang was speechless. After a long silence, he sighed. Carlos, I can't convince you. But, I can only do my best to use this insignificant power to try to change the damn future. Bahuang suddenly stretched out his hand, and a white light was released from his palm, instantly covering Carlos. Carlos was surrounded by white light, lost his ability to move, and was bound and slowly flew into the air. Senior, it's useless for you to trap me. I will definitely try to leave. Definitely. Carlos shouted loudly. I know, so I'm not trying to trap you. Bahuang shook his head, flicked his fingers, and the white light turned into a space door. A huge force pulled Carlos into the door, and disappeared without a trace in an instant. Brother Bahuang, where did you send this kid from the mechanical family? Mo Tong's face showed a touch of surprise. The Milky Way, Xia Neon Star. In the future, that Xia Xingchen saw, Carlos was on his way to rescue the Milky Way. Before he arrived at the Milky Way, he was ambushed by the Eternal Gods and died on the spot. I sent Carlos directly to Xia Neon Star so that he could avoid this tragic fate. Of course, you and I have no power to stop the conclusion of the timeline. Carlos will still die in the war with the Eternal Gods. However, before he died, at least he fulfilled his wish and did not die with hatred. Bahuang looked up at the endless starry sky and said slowly, Xingchen, this is all I can do for you. The other supervisors also sighed with their heads down. They deeply felt that even as powerful as they were as small as dust in the face of the vast universe. In the face of a powerful destiny, they could do nothing. Whoosh. Carlos shuttled through the space tunnel. I don't know how long it had passed. Suddenly, his eyes lit up, and he found himself in a beautiful garden. The surrounding area was full of green trees and flowers. A human mother was holding the hand of a little boy next to the fountain. When they saw Carlos, both mother and son were slightly stunned, and then they showed friendly smiles on their faces. Human. Carlos was stunned. He was already a black hole level strongman at this moment. He immediately turned on the scanner and covered the entire planet. Xia Neon Star. Is this Xia Neon Star? Senior Bahuang was afraid that I would get into trouble on the road, so he sent me directly to Xia Neon Star. Carlos was excited and bowed in the direction of the other end of the universe to thank Bahuang for his understanding. Swish. After bowing, Carlos' figure suddenly disappeared, and the next moment he appeared above the Imperial Palace of Xia Neon Star. Carlos used the scanner to find Kinjana in the study. At this moment, Kinjana was still busy at the desk. Her eyebrows slightly frowned, as if she had encountered some problems. Princess Crossing Carlos stood in front of the study door and didn't know how to start for a while. If Princess Crossing asked about Xia Xingchen's whereabouts, what should he tell her? Could it be that Xia Xingchen has been missing for 20 years? The powerful eternal gods are mobilizing their army to invade the Milky Way, preparing to destroy mankind. Carlos now understood why Xia Xingchen returned to Xia Star, but only to see Kinjana once, but was reluctant to leave. Who is outside the door? Kinjana suddenly raised her head and shouted. She has entered middle age, and although she has been well maintained, there are already fine wrinkles at the corners of her eyes. Your Highness. Carlos could only walk into the study, kneel in front of Kinjana, and perform the etiquette of a minister. Do you still recognize me? It's you. Carlos. Kinjana recognized Carlos at a glance, her face full of surprise, covering her chest with her right hand, and exclaimed, "Isn't I dreaming? Is it really you, Carlos?" Carlos and Kinjana had only met a few times, and had never even met in person. Kinjana could actually recognize him at a glance, which touched Carlos' heart. Carlos. Where is Xingchen? He has been in the heaven realm for so many years, and there has been no news. Where is he? Did he come back with you? Kinjana walked forward, grabbed Carlos' hand, and asked excitedly, Your Highness. Carlos lowered his head, still not thinking about what to say. No way, it's impossible. Xingchen will never get into trouble. Kinjana took a step back, her pretty face turned pale, her body trembled slightly, and she almost couldn't stand steadily. Your Highness, don't worry. Xingchen just disappeared. He often disappears, which is a very normal thing. It's just that this time he disappeared for a long time, and it's a bit strange. Carlos hurriedly explained, but the more he explained, the worse it got. Seeing Kinjana's face on the paper, the most powerful super artificial intelligence in the entire Milky Way couldn't help but panic. Missing. Just missing. That's right, Xingchen just disappeared. Kinjana had been with Xia Xingchen, and had experienced many hardships. She was not a flower in a greenhouse. She had been the emperor of the Galactic Empire for nearly 30 years, and she had experienced many storms. In fact, the moment Carlos appeared, Kinjana didn't see Xia Xingchen, whom she had been dreaming about, and she had a premonition in her heart. At this moment, she murmured in her mouth, constantly persuading herself, and telling herself to be strong. But the Empress of the Empire with the City of Iron Lady couldn't help but let tears slide down her cheeks. After waiting for more than 30 years, countless midnight dreams, countless expectations, requests, and prayers. I hope Xia Xingchen can come back safely. Is it just for this result? Your Highness. Carlos saw Kinjana's heartbroken look, and he couldn't help but feel sad. He felt like the embodiment of disaster, bringing all the worst news. However, since Carlos was here, he had to tell the information about the imminent invasion of the Eternal Protoss. Carlos believed that, since Kinjana was Xia Xingchen's wife, she was as strong as him. Your Highness, the army of the Eternal Gods is already heading towards the Milky Way. I came here this time to take you away. Humanity is no longer able to avoid destruction, and I can only do my best to protect you, the one the stars love the most. Carlos whispered. Chapter 1858 Xia Xingchen's message. Carlos, what did you say? The Eternal Protoss is going to attack the Milky Way. Kinjana was not too panicked, but showed a trace of surprise on her face, and said excitedly, Carlos, are you telling the truth? There is really a super race like the Eternal Protoss in the universe, that is as powerful as a god, and each member can destroy the galaxy? And are they really going to attack the Milky Way? Carlos was slightly startled. He looked at Kinjana's expression, as if he had known about the existence of the Eternal Protoss for a long time. But this is impossible. The Eternal Protoss is one of the top 10 races. Even many races in the celestial realm have only heard of this name, and have never seen a member of the Eternal Protoss. The technology of the human beings in the Milky Way is still very primitive and backward, and they are not qualified to be promoted to celestial realm as a whole. In addition, the starry sky barrier set up by the supervisor Bahang and the Milky Way has isolated the Milky Way from the outside world, forming an isolated island. Except for a few celestial races such as the Elder and the Mechanical race, who have tried their best to sneak into the Milky Way, the human beings in the Milky Way rarely come into contact with other celestial realms, let alone communicate. Although Kinjana is the Empress of the Galactic Empire and holds a high position, she has absolutely no channel to know about the affairs of the celestial realm. Unless. Carlos' heart skipped a beat, and a possibility emerged in his mind. He hurriedly said, "Your Highness, have other celestial beings visited the Milky Way? Although the celestial beings are an advanced race, there are also many evil people with ulterior motives among them. Your Highness must not trust them." Xingchen's bright eyes moved, and she shook her head slowly, and whispered, "I am the Emperor of the Galactic Empire. Every decision is related to the life and death of trillions of human beings. Naturally, I will not trust others easily. However, Carlos, you guessed wrong. No celestial being visited the Milky Way." Carlos felt relieved and wondered, since no celestial being visited, how did your highness know the information about the Eternal God clan? Xingchen bit her lips with her pearly teeth, was silent for a while, and said, "The overclocked signal receiver on the Lingju star received a strange message. The location of the message is unknown, and the symbols used are also quite strange. It is actually the ancient Chinese language of the Chinese people. The person who sent the message called himself Xia Xingchen. The message said that the Eternal God clan is about to invade the Milky Way, so let us be prepared." A message from Xia Xingchen. Carlos was shocked and jumped up, saying excitedly, "Is it really a message from Xingchen? He's okay. Great. It's really great." I was also very happy when I received the message just now, thinking it was from Xia Xingchen. However, the preparations he asked humans to make were very strange. He didn't ask humans to prepare for battle, but to give up resistance. Starting from the coordinates of the invasion of the Eternal Gods, all the way to Xia Xingchen star, there are a total of 473 planets inhabited by humans on the way. All of them gave up resistance and transferred the humans on the planets to other places. It is equivalent to letting the Eternal Gods march straight in and directly reach Xia Xingchen star. Xingchen whispered, "What? The content of this message is to ask humans to give up resistance?" Carlos was also confused. With his wisdom and understanding of Xia Xingchen, he couldn't figure out why Xia Xingchen did this. So, after the calculation and analysis of the super quantum computer Deep Blue on the Lingju star, the probability that this message was sent by Xia Xingchen is very low, less than 3%. 70% is a prank, and the remaining probability is a conspiracy of the Eternal Gods. They pretended to be Xia Xingchen and wanted humans to give up resistance directly. Carlos, what do you think of this message? Xingchen's face showed a hint of expectation. She knew that Carlos was the most powerful artificial intelligence in the Milky Way and had superb computing power. Perhaps Carlos could put forward a different opinion. "Please send me the full content of the message and I will calculate it immediately," Carlos said seriously. Carlos is already a black hole level celestial being and is also an artificial intelligence that is born with computing power. Although his computing power is not as good as the supercomputer future of the universe clan, it is much higher than the computing power of Deep Blue on the Lingju star. Xingchen showed a hint of joy on her face and quickly passed the complete message to Carlos. Carlos' eyes flashed red, and tens of millions of possibilities flashed through his mind in an instant. After a long time, the red light in Carlos' eyes gradually went out, and a smile appeared on his face. He said excitedly, "I have calculated the most likely result. This message is indeed sent by Xingchen." "Is it really Xingchen?" Xingchen was also very excited. Her face flushed. She paced back and forth in the room, muttering, "It's really Xingchen. Xingchen is fine. That's great. It's really great. Carlos, this is the best news I have heard in all these years. But why did Xingchen only send a message? What if he didn't come back? Could it be that he is dozens of light years away and has no way to come back? Dozens of light years." Carlos was a little speechless. As the Emperor of the Galactic Empire and Xia Xingchen's partner, Xingchen's vision was already very high. However, with her knowledge, she still couldn't imagine how powerful the technology of the celestial beings was, and how powerful the power of the universe-level strongman was. Not to mention dozens of light years, even hundreds of light years, thousands of light years. Xia Xingchen can cross it instantly using the ability of super time and space jump. The spatial distance is no longer an insurmountable gap in front of the universe-level strongman. Your Highness, now Xingchen is already a strong man standing at the top of the universe. If it is just a spatial distance, he can cross it in an instant. Even if he is in a different dimension of the universe, Xingchen already has the ability to cross dimensions. He just sent a message, but did not come back in person. I'm afraid that the timeline he is in now is different from ours. The law of time is one of the most profound laws of the universe, and Xingchen has not yet comprehended it. Carlos said the result of his deduction. Different timeline? Xingchen frowned slightly. This statement was too profound for her. But she understood what Carlos meant, and knew that Xia Xingchen was trapped in a strange place, and could not return for a while. Carlos, if this message was sent by Xia Xingchen, why didn't he let humans prepare for battle, but instead gave up the planets along the way? Could it be that he wanted us to surrender to the Eternal God clan? If this is what Xia Xingchen meant, I'm willing to do it. Because I know Xingchen, all the decisions he made have deep meanings. Xingchen gritted her teeth and said, Your Highness, you may have misunderstood something. The reason why the Eternals invaded the Milky Way was not to conquer, but to destroy. Their purpose is very simple, which is to wipe out the entire human race without leaving a single one. Xingchen once saw the future, in which all humans died, and you and all of Xingchen's relatives, even me, were killed by the Eternals. Therefore, Xingchen once blamed himself very much, thinking that he had not fulfilled his responsibility to protect us, which led to such a tragic and dark future. Therefore, even if humans surrender to the Eternals, it will be of no avail. They come to kill, and they can only kill. Carlos said slowly, if you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 1859 The Only Chance. The purpose of the Eternal Gods is to destroy humanity? Xingchen's face changed. There have been countless conquests in human history. Many conquests were also very bloody, but all human conquests had their purpose, most of which were to rob resources. In human history, there has never been a conquest simply for killing. The eternal empire of the Eternal Gods is very far away from the Milky Way, hundreds of light years away. Xingchen could not understand such a behavior at all, mobilizing so many troops and consuming a lot of resources just for the sake of pure killing. The goal of the eternal protest is to destroy humanity. In fact, the ancient humans, the ancestors of mankind, are a powerful race, and it is very likely that they will be promoted to the ranks of the top 10 peak protests. However, it is rumored that the ancient humans obtained a cosmic artifact, and the ancient humans were destroyed by the eternal protests, so they fled all the way to the Milky Way. Carlos explained, the eternal protests and humans are enemies, and this hatred is impossible to resolve. The Elder who provoked the North and the Galactic Empire were also instructed by the eternal protests. Since Xingchen entered the celestial realm, he has been hunted by the Elder and the eternal protests. Although he managed to eliminate the Elder, the eternal protest behind the scenes is too powerful. What's more, behind the eternal protest is the Tower of Order, one of the 6 holy places. Xingchen must have had a hard time living alone all these years. Xingchen asked softly, does he have a new partner of the opposite sex? No, there will always be only you in his heart. Carlos said in a deep voice, in addition to practicing and improving his own strength, he misses you the most. Xingchen. Xingchen couldn't hold back any longer, tears streaming down her face. Xingchen, these years, I've been missing you day and night. Xingchen covered her face with her hands, unable to control her emotions anymore. Decades of accumulated longing burst out like a flood, totally unstoppable. Carlos watched from the side, somewhat at a loss, not knowing how to persuade Xingchen to stop crying. After a long time, Xingchen slowly calmed down, her face slightly red, and she said to Carlos, I don't know what happened to me today. I can't control my emotions at all. I'm not like this usually. I'll let you see me lose my composure. Carlos shook his head and didn't continue on this topic. He whispered, Your Highness, the reason why Xingchen asked all humans on the planets along the way to migrate and let the eternal gods march straight to Shiniu and Star is very simple, because no human is the opponent of the eternal gods. All humans on the planets along the way will be killed by the eternal gods in a blink of an eye. Xingchen is very kind and doesn't want these innocent humans to die in vain. But what's the use of retreating to Xia and Star? If we don't resist, once Xia and Star fails, the Galactic Empire will be finished. Humanity will be completely finished too. Xingchen said, puzzled. Because Xingchen will come back by then. He will definitely come back. Carlos said in a deep voice, this is the only possibility and the greatest possibility. I believe in Xingchen, Your Highness. How about you? Of course I believe in Xingchen. Xingchen said hurriedly. Similarly, I also believe that you, Carlos, who believe in Xingchen, are Xingchen's best friend. Since this is the result you calculated, then I will immediately arrange for the evacuation of more than 400 planets along the way, and issue an Empire Red Alert, gather all the strong men of mankind, and fight a decisive battle with the Eternal God clan on Xia and Star. Yes. Carlos nodded and agreed with Xingchen's decision. Although Carlos knew very well that all the strong men of mankind combined were not the opponents of any cosmic level strong man of the Eternal God clan. However, Carlos was deeply moved by the spirit of mankind who was not afraid of power and bravely resisted. This is the bloodiness of mankind. Although there are many races in the universe, there are not many races like humans who are so bloody and would rather die than live in disgrace. Carlos didn't understand why Xia Xingchen was not old, but created one miracle after another. Even the giants of the universe were extremely surprised. Now Carlos understood that it was because Xia Xingchen had this spirit of daring to resist, this unique human blood, that he could reach such a height. At the same time, Carlos also understood why the Eternal Protoss was so afraid of humans. Human technology is not advanced, the body is not strong, and the talent and mental strength is mediocre. However, this spirit of humans makes the Eternal Protoss, one of the top 10 races, deeply afraid, so they try every means, and try their best to strangle human civilization in the cradle. Unfortunately, the Eternal Protoss is doomed to fail. Because Xingchen will definitely come back. Carlos walked out of the door, looked up at the boundless sea of stars, a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and his fists were clenched tightly. Xingchen, I believe you. According to the previous habits of the Galactic Empire, the bigger the event, the stricter the confidentiality, for fear of causing panic among ordinary citizens of the Empire. However, during the decades that Xingchen has been in power, the economy has flourished, and the politics has been enlightened. Although the empire still retains the imperial system, the seeds of democracy, equality, and freedom have begun to take root. Xingchen did not choose to conceal it, but held a press conference to make the news of the invasion of the Eternal Gods public. This news, like a heavy bomb, immediately set off an uproar throughout the empire. Various voices appeared on the internet. Some people questioned Xingchen, thinking that she was exaggerating to maintain her own rule, and in fact there was no such super race as the Eternal Gods. Some people thought that the end of the world was coming, completely collapsed, and squandered their wealth hysterically. Some people hoped to get in touch with the Eternal Gods through some simple communication devices, and even some absurd and ignorant absurd rituals, and were willing to become the puppet pets of the Eternal Gods and survive. However, most humans, after a brief panic, said goodbye to their families, boarded their mechas, left their hometowns, and gathered from all directions of the starry sky to Xia and Star, shouting the slogan of fighting for mankind, and joining the first and last line of defense against the Eternal Gods. Among these humans who participated in the war, there were elderly mecha masters and children who had just grown up. Most of them are D-class mecha masters, and some are even workers who only know how to drive engineering mechas. In the eyes of some officers in the imperial military, these people are a group of useless rabble, and an old general applied to the Empress Xingchen, hoping to dismiss these people, because they not only have no combat power, but will drag down the actions of the imperial army. But the old general's application was directly rejected by Xingchen. Xingchen knew very well that the human army was vulnerable in front of the Eternal God clan. All humans can do now is to believe that Xia Xingchen can come back in time. As long as Xia Xingchen can come back, every human present on Xia and Star can provide Xia Xingchen with the power of faith. This is the only chance for mankind. Chapter 1860 Reunion. A few months later. After spending a lot of manpower, financial resources and material resources, under the command of Xingchen, the population of more than 400 planets inhabited by humans along the southern border of the Galactic Empire to the imperial capital Xia Xingchen was completely evacuated. These people were temporarily resettled in the relatively safe and sparsely populated Siberian starfield. The dozens of satellites surrounding Xia Xingchen, which were originally built with the imperial royal family's palaces and were royal forbidden areas, are now all open and stationed with mecha divisions that rushed to Xia Xingchen from all directions to participate in the last battle of mankind. The originally deserted satellites have become very lively since the pacification of the North and Xingchen's ascension to the throne. Although there are occasional rebellions on the border of the empire as a whole is in a stage of peaceful development. The Yazi organization was originally a military organization established by Xia Xingchen to avenge the Northern Empire. After the war in the empire subsided, the Yazi organization has been responsible for the defense of Xia Xingchen and the safety of Xingchen. However, as time went by, the two Grand Dukes of the Antarctic and Penglay Star regions also realized that the Empire's military power was strong. If they started a rebellion, they would end up with the same tragic ending as Nicholas. Coupled with Xingchen's tough tactics, they gradually gave up the idea of rebellion. The existence of the Yazi organization has lost its original meaning. After General Claude discussed with the core members of the Yazi organization, he decided to disband the Yazi organization. Those who are willing to continue fighting will be incorporated into the Imperial Guards to protect Xingchen's safety. Those who are unwilling to continue fighting will receive a large severance pay, enough to live a worry-free life for the rest of their lives. As for General Claude himself, he inherited the last wish of his father, von Bismarck, and served as the Grand Marshal of the Galactic Empire. In the end, Xia joined the Imperial Guards and became a school-level officer, protecting Xingchen. Miyamoto Kenichi wandered in the starry sky, honing his swordsmanship in adventure, hoping to further break through himself. Father Free returned to the Coffin Star and lived in a lakeside villa with Xia Xingchen's father Xia Yu. He often went to discuss mecha issues with Zuo Lehun and Hao Xian, two leaders in the mecha world. As for Jackson and others, they received a considerable severance pay and returned to their home planet to live a few years of peaceful and stable life. At this moment, Xia, wearing a neat silver grey colonel uniform, walked in a military camp on the satellite of Xia Xingchen. Sir, is he Colonel Xia, Xia Xingchen's capable subordinate? The soldiers on the road saluted Xia one after another, and many people whispered, talking about the brilliant deeds Xia had created when he followed Xia Xingchen. These words naturally could not be hidden from Xia's ears. He smiled slightly and continued to move forward. Suddenly, he saw a familiar figure in front of him. Jackson, didn't you go back to your hometown? Xia walked over quickly and opened his hands enthusiastically. I also want to live a few more years of peaceful life, but there is no way. Humanity is at the point of life and death. As a mecha master, I must do my part for humanity. I just hope that my mecha skills have not become rusty over the years. Jackson was wearing the old uniform of the Jiaozi organization, with a smile on his face, and he opened his arms and hugged Xia tightly. This uniform has been at the bottom of the box for many years, and the color is a little dull, but it was neatly arranged and straightened by Jackson. Because this is his greatest honor, the most fortunate thing in his life is to join the Jiaozi organization. Jackson, you are old. Xia saw that Jackson's face was full of wrinkles, and then realized that he was no longer young and had already passed the 50-year-old age. Xia, aren't you old too? A figure in a black cloak slowly walked over, with two swords inserted in his waist, and a sword aura surging from his body. He wore a straw hat on his head, the brim of the hat covered his eyes, and there was a mess of stubble on his chin. Miyamoto Kenichi, Xia exclaimed, recognizing the down-and-out samurai in front of him at a glance. It was his good friend Miyamoto Kenichi. Xia, look at how fat you are now. You must be enjoying yourself in the imperial capital, right? You are definitely not my opponent now. Miyamoto Kenichi took off his straw hat, and there was a cross-shaped knife scar on his cheek, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. What do you mean by fat? This is called strong, okay? If you are not convinced, Come and try. I'm not like you, traveling around everywhere. I have been working hard to practice. Keeler's face flushed slightly, and he argued. You two are really, you finally meet, and you can only quarrel? A tall man in a black robe and a mask walked over, exuding a unique noble temperament. Rusfin? Miyamoto Kenichi's nose twitched a few times. His eyes showed an incredible expression, and then a smile broke out on his face. He walked forward and punched the black-robed man in the chest. I smelled the blood and knew it was you. Where have you been hiding for so many years? I have traveled to every corner of the Milky Way, but I haven't heard any news about you. Rusfin smiled slightly, took off his mask, and revealed his handsome face. He did not dodge Miyamoto Kenichi's punch, but when the fist approached, a red light appeared on the surface of his body, and with a slight turn, he completely dissolved the fist force. Quasi-celestial being? Keeler and Miyamoto Kenichi were both surprised. You have been promoted to the realm of quasi-celestial being? Has your genetic disease been cured? Rusfin did not answer, but just nodded slightly. Rusfin has been on the coffin star for all these years. Okay. Miyamoto Kenichi, you are such an idiot. You haven't been to the coffin star for all these years. A tall girl came over with a smile. Her blue eyes were like a pool of autumn water. Her skin was as white as snow. Her features were delicate, and she was wearing a white dress, which made her slender waist look even more beautiful. Are you Carissa? Keeler and Miyamoto Kenichi's faces changed, and they looked at the beautiful girl in front of them in disbelief. Except for the blue eyes, that were as clear as the sea, the beautiful girl in front of them had no resemblance to Carissa at all. However, except for Carissa, Keeler and Miyamoto Kenichi really couldn't think of any female mecha master who was more powerful than the two of them. The mental fluctuations emanating from Carissa made the two of them a little unsteady. That's not right. The age doesn't match. After so many years, Carissa should be in her 30s or 40s. How could she look like a girl of 17 or 18? Miyamoto Kenichi muttered. Idiot. Don't forget Carissa's genes. Keeler reminded her quickly. Carissa is a cloned person bred by mixing human and celestial genes. Her body grows much slower than humans. Back then, Carissa looked like a bright girl of 13 or 14 years old, but her brain development was stagnant and her IQ was only 7 years old, which once troubled Meredith. Although many years have passed, the years do not seem to have left too many traces on Carissa. She has become more beautiful and sexy, but her age does not seem to have changed much. Two idiots. Who else could it be if not Carissa? You have never come to see Carissa. Carissa is bored to death and has been angry for a long time. Carissa pouted her little mouth, her cheeks bulging, and she was sulking. And my stupid master Xia Xingchen has disappeared for many years and didn't even come back to see Carissa. Doesn't he know that Carissa misses him very much? Carissa's big eyes were sparkling with crystal tears. Chapter 1861 Return. When the former partners of the Jiaozi organization gathered in the military camp of the satellite, ready to fight for the final battle, the Xiaonean Star Palace also welcomed 3 guests. The Empress of the Empire, Xingchen, dressed in luxurious clothes, and brought thousands of personal guards to greet them at the Xiaonean Star Airport. Whoosh. First, a huge starship with a pirate flag flew over and slowly landed at the airport. The pirate ship opened the door, and Edward, the domain lord of the Chaos Star domain, walked out of it surrounded by the crowd. His hair and beard were already white, but he was in good spirits. He walked in front of Xingchen, knelt on one knee, and said, "Your Majesty, Grand Duke Edward, there is no need to be polite." Xingchen saw Edward and immediately showed a touch of joy on her face. She walked forward and helped Edward up. Xingchen fled to the Chaos Star domain and stayed on the Azure Star for a long time. Naturally, she was very familiar with Edward. Later, when Xingchen became the Emperor of the Empire, she canonized Edward as the 5th Duke of the Galactic Empire, ranking alongside the 4 Grand Dukes of the East, West, South, and North. Edward naturally agreed to such a reward and was willing to submit to the Galactic Empire. From then on, the vast and rich Chaos Star region became the territory of the Empire. Just relying on Xingchen's bloodless and unspent soldiers to expand the territory for the Empire and obtain such a large territory in the Chaos Star region, her name will be recorded in history. Edward went from a down and out nobleman to a star pirate, then to a star pirate overlord, and finally became the Grand Duke of the Galactic Empire. His experience is very legendary, adapted into countless film and television literary works, and praised by the citizens of the galaxy. Your Majesty, I heard that a powerful cosmic race is attacking Xia Xingchen. You have to lead all the human warriors to fight the last battle. I will immediately bring my elite soldiers here. They are now parked outside Xia Xingchen. Once you get your permission, they can support Xia Xingchen at any time. Edward said in a deep voice. Very good. Xingchen looked at Edward deeply and didn't say much because she knew that Edward would never let her down. The fifth jackdaw Edward arrived at Xia Xingchen, but Xingchen did not leave the airport but looked up at the starry sky and continued to wait. Edward's face changed slightly and he asked, Your Majesty, do you have other guests? Is it that adult? Who else can make me wait like this? Xingchen smiled and covered her lips. Of course it's the Star Pirate King. Xingchen's voice had just fallen, and an extremely large golden spaceship suddenly appeared in the sky, which was teleported directly. A golden skeleton mecha fell from the sky and landed on the airport. A tall and imposing old man jumped out of the mecha, stood in front of Xingchen, and said with a smile, Jaina girl, I haven't seen you for so many years. You are still so beautiful. Master. Xingchen's face blushed slightly, and she quickly changed the subject. Master, your mental power has improved again. Star Pirate King Roger laughed, and was very happy. I'm lucky old man. When I was exploring a secret realm of the starry sky, I accidentally broke through the last threshold, and became a celestial being by chance. Celestial being? Xingchen was shocked, and then a look of joy appeared on her face. She hurriedly said, Congratulations, Master. Old man, I didn't expect you to break through too. A flash of light appeared, and a mecha condensed with light appeared on the airport. After the light dissipated, the Angel of Light Michael came over with a smile. Come on, do you want to fight? I just broke through to become a celestial being. Michael, you have also advanced to a celestial being? Roger was slightly startled, and then laughed. Come on, I'm just worried that I have no opponent. Two celestial beings? Edward stood in front of Roger and Michael, feeling unstable, and was extremely shocked in his heart. Is this the strength of a celestial being? Your Majesty, since Roger and Michael are both celestial beings, any alien race that invaded the Milky Way should not be their opponent. Edward whispered. Xingchen showed a gloomy look on her face, bit her lips lightly, and did not answer directly. Xingchen had known part of the future from Carlos a long time ago, and was not surprised that Roger and Michael became celestial beings. In fact, when Carlos said that the two of them would be promoted to celestial beings, Xingchen was still a little unconvinced. After all, Roger and Michael were both very old and their lives were coming to an end, so the chances of being promoted to celestial beings were slim. But a miracle happened, allowing both of them to be promoted to celestial beings. This also shows that the future is developing as Xia Xingchen saw it. Could it be that humans cannot escape the fate of being destroyed? Xingchen's eyes revealed a trace of despair. She looked up at the starry sky and murmured in a low voice, Xingchen, where are you? Come back quickly. Celestial Realm, Misty Sea. On the golden platform, the guardians all turned into statues and fell into a deep sleep. Suddenly, a statue suddenly woke up, a cold man with countless black tentacles growing behind him. His face showed a touch of shock and looked towards the core area of the Misty Sea. The other guardians also woke up one by one, and each of them was shocked. Captain Mandler, what's going on? Has the third trial started? Who conducted the third trial? Impossible. No one has been able to pass the first trial in these years. The guardians were all talking about it, and finally their eyes were focused on Captain Mandler. According to the rules left by Usulan, they will only wake up when someone conducts the trial. Decades ago, a young human named Xia Xingchen conducted the first and second trials, which allowed them to wake up briefly. However, with the disappearance of Xia Xingchen, the trialists disappeared completely, and they have not woken up for a long time. I don't know either. Captain Mandler shook his head with a puzzled look. The fluctuations came directly from the central continent. Even Xia Xingchen does not have the authority to enter the central continent. Let's go and take a look. Yeah. Everyone nodded. Whoosh. The golden platform instantly turned into a spaceship and flew towards the center of the misty sea. Passing through the meteorite area and the layers of clouds that blocked the view, a huge piece of land was suspended in the universe. There are grasslands, forests, lakes, and mountains on the land. Wild animals can be seen everywhere. It is a rich continent. The spaceship flew through the air, and the primitive people wearing animal skins on the ground were all surprised, waving their spears, and shouting in an incomprehensible language. Humph. The Guardians looked down at these primitive people with a hint of contempt in their eyes. In an instant, the golden platform crossed a large area of land and sea, and landed in front of a bronze tower in the center of the continent. At this moment, a man stood in front of the tower. He was wearing a neat military uniform and black military boots. He put his hands behind his back and looked up at the tower. As the golden platform slowly landed, the man slowly turned his head, but his eyes were as deep as the universe, and there seemed to be endless time and space. With a familiar and bright smile on his face, he smiled and said, "Captain Manler." Seeing this man's face, all the Guardians were stunned. After a long silence, Captain Manler stepped forward, opened his arms, and said excitedly, "Xia Xingchen." Chapter 1862. The Final Trial. In the center of the misty sea, there is a huge land floating. In front of the bronze tower in the center of the land, Captain Manler and Xia Xingchen hugged each other tightly, like old friends. "Xia Xingchen, you." Feeling the bottomless energy on Xia Xingchen, Captain Manler's face changed, and he suddenly let go of his hand, took a step back, and said warily, "What's the matter with the energy fluctuations on your body? This is not a cosmic energy fluctuation, and it doesn't even belong to a celestial being. Oh my god, you are a cosmic god. Who are you, and why are you pretending to be Xia Xingchen?" Hearing Captain Manler's words, the Guardians were all on guard. Even a few Guardians have taken out their weapons and are ready, staring at Xia Xingchen. The originally warm atmosphere suddenly dropped to the freezing point, and a war could be triggered at any time. Although the Guardians know that they can't be the opponent of the cosmic god, it is their duty to protect the misty sea. The cosmic god pretending to be Xia Xingchen in front of them sneaked into the central continent of the misty sea, and there must be some unspeakable secrets. "Captain Manler, you are still as cautious as before, even a little suspicious." Xia Xingchen shrugged his shoulders, looked relaxed, looked at the Guardians, and said, "I'm Xia Xingchen, and I have now been promoted to a cosmic god. It's only been a few decades, and you have been promoted to a cosmic god. Do you think we are fools, and don't know what cosmic gods represent?" Captain Manler sneered and said coldly, "Decades. It took me 30,000 years and countless battles to finally become a cosmic god." Although Xia Xingchen's tone was still relaxed, countless scenes of war flashed in his eyes. "Captain Manler, and fellow Guardians, please don't get excited. I will explain it to you clearly." Xia Xingchen smiled. "I'm Xia Xingchen, but I do not belong to this timeline. In other words, I'm Xia Xingchen who returned to this timeline from the end of the universe." "The end of the universe? Did you succeed in becoming a fallen and participated in the end war? Do you have any evidence?" Captain Manler was stunned, but he was not a person who was easily credulous, and still doubted Xia Xingchen's words. "I don't know if this counts as evidence." Xia Xingchen's palm flashed with light, and a blood-red eyeball appeared in his palm. This eyeball is exactly the same as the eyeball on the badge of Yusulan. Ah, the eye of the end of the world. This is the most important treasure of Master Yusulan, the eye of the end of the world. It is said that it was lost in the end war. How could it fall into your hands? The Guardians were all stunned. Feeling the terrifying destructive energy emanating from the eye of the end of the world, the Guardians were all unstable and knelt down one after another. Even a powerful captain like Manler had weak legs at this moment. His mind was blank, his eyes stared at the eye of the end of the world, and he slowly knelt down. Seeing the eye of the end of the world was like seeing Yusuran himself. The Guardians were all Yusuran's servants and the guardians of his tomb, so they naturally had to kneel down. "Everyone, stand up. If there were nothing else to prove my identity, I wouldn't want to take this treasure out." Xia Xingchen flipped his palm and took the eye of the end of the world back into his own space, with a little apology on his face. "Xia Xingchen, I believe in your identity. But Wasn't the eye of the end of the world lost? How did it get into your hands? Did you find it on the battlefield of the end of the war? Captain Mandler said in shock. The eye of the apocalypse possesses endless destructive power. How could such a treasure be found casually on the battlefield? Xia Xingchen was speechless. This was given to me by Lord Yusaran. I spent a lot of time to get it. Lord Yusaran. Captain Mandler's face showed shock again, and he said in a lost voice, have you seen the Lord? Isn't he dead? In this timeline, Lord Yusaran is indeed dead, but in the future, on the battlefield of the End War, he is still alive, commanding the fallen of the 7th Legion to fight. Xia Xingchen explained patiently, when the End War is about to end, Lord Yusaran's life will come to an end. After that, he will travel through time back to the past, and then build the Sea of Mist as his grave. The Lord is very clear about this ending, so he gave the Eye of the Apocalypse to me. Xia Xingchen, wait a minute, I'm a little confused. Captain Mandler rubbed his temple. What future? Past? The timeline is a mess. Time and space are not linear. For most cosmic beings, traveling through time is just reaching a very similar parallel space. But for a big man like the commander of the 7th Legion, he has the terrifying ability to travel through time and even change the timeline. Xia Xingchen explained, but even so, Lord Yusaran still cannot change the fate of his own death. In short, the mystery of time and space is the most difficult and obscure mystery in the universe, and I can't explain it clearly for a while. Yeah. Captain Mandler and the other guardians nodded as if they understood. In fact, my understanding of the mystery of time is not enough. Xia Xingchen smiled bitterly and scratched his head. I can successfully return to this timeline thanks to the power of the Eye of the End of the World. What are you going to do next? Captain Mandler asked. I'm already a fallen angel, and the third trial has no meaning to me. However, there is still the final trial left. Once I pass the final trial, I will be able to become the leader of the 7th Legion of the Fallen Angels and inherit the mantle of the adults. Only by controlling the 7th Legion can we completely destroy the Eternal Protoss and save mankind. Xia Xingchen looked up at the tower in front of him with a firm look in his eyes. The content of the final trial is to pass through the 99 floors of the Tower of the End of the World. Xia Xingchen, are you sure you really want to break through this Tower of the End of the World? Captain Mandler was excited. If you can really break through the Tower of the End of the World and pass the final trial, then you will become the true master of the Guardian, and we will be free, and we won't have to fall into sleep anymore. The eyes of the other Guardians also lit up. Although they became Guardians voluntarily, but no one is willing to exchange freedom for this boring eternal life. The Guardians have been waiting for the arrival of the new master, so that they can follow the new master, and no longer be trapped in the Sea of Mist. However, they had never thought that among the countless people who had entered the Misty Sea over the years, Xia Xingchen, a human mecha master whom they did not think highly of, would become their final hope. Well, I will try my best. Xia Xingchen nodded, a smile on his face, and a golden mecha slowly condensed. The black aura of destruction and the golden power of faith flowed through the mecha body. He said in a deep voice, let the ultimate trial begin now. Chapter 1863 The Fate of the Huang Clan. The Milky Way. An extremely large golden fleet crossed the galaxy barrier and headed towards the direction of Shinyuan Star. On the huge and luxurious mothership, the Eternal Lord sat on the throne, bowed his head in meditation, his eyes flashing white light, and endless time passed through his eyes. The Eternal Lord was deducing time and space. Soon, a smile appeared on the corner of the Eternal Lord's mouth. He deduced tens of thousands of times, and the result was the same. The future has been determined. This time the Eternal Protoss invaded the Milky Way, and the results of many previous invasions were the same. The Eternal Protoss will return triumphantly. The enemies of the Eternal Protoss will be destroyed. The Eternal Lord showed a cruel smile on his face. Lord God, we have entered the Milky Way. Due to the limitations of the laws of the galaxy, our technology and energy level will be suppressed. A cosmic level strongman stepped forward and reported. Well, I noticed it too. The Eternal Lord nodded slightly. The moment he entered the Milky Way, he felt that the energy flow in his body became unsmooth and there was a clear sense of stagnation. Xia Xingchen, are you relying on this little cleverness to protect your race? The Eternal God Lord smiled coldly and ordered, open the energy stand. Yes, sir. The strong men of the Eternal God clan received the order and immediately pressed a red button on the console. But, in an instant, the light blue energy crystal in the center of the starship began to rotate, releasing powerful energy. At the same time, an energy field like a huge eggshell extended out, covering the entire fleet of the Eternal God clan. The galactic laws of the Milky Way are very strict. Within the scope of the galaxy, the combat effectiveness of the celestial beings will be severely suppressed. Back then, after Carlos became a celestial being, he was suppressed by the galactic laws and had to leave the Milky Way. This is also one of the reasons why there are few celestial beings visiting the Milky Way. However, the technology of the Eternal God clan is so powerful that it can deploy energy stands to fight against the galactic laws. As long as they are within the range of the energy field, the strength of the Eternal God clan warriors will not be suppressed by the galactic laws. They are all super strong men at the black hole level or even the universe level. Any cosmic level warrior has the ability to destroy humans. Moreover, this time the Eternal God clan wants to establish its prestige, and all the elites in the clan are out in full force, leaving only the old, weak, sick and disabled. Comfortable. The feeling of being suppressed by the law just now is really uncomfortable. Many cosmic level warriors stretched their bodies and looked relaxed. In their view, destroying the Milky Way is just a piece of cake, just like going on a picnic. Sir, we have entered the Milky Way, but we have not found any traces of humans. According to intelligence, there should be humans on these planets along the way. A technician discovered the abnormality and immediately reported it to the Eternal God Lord. What's going on? The Eternal God Lord frowned and immediately began to deduce. Soon, the Eternal God Lord had a result and sneered. These humans escaped a few months ago. How stupid. What's the point of escaping? In the end, they will still die. Sir, what should we do next? Asked a cosmic level warrior. Don't worry about the planets along the way. The scattered humans are not worth wasting our time. Let's go directly to Xia Xingchen, the capital planet of mankind. The Eternal God Lord thought for a while and gave the order. Yes, sir. The warriors of the Eternal God clan responded one after another, and the Golden Fleet turned into a stream of light and flew towards Xia Xingchen. At the same time, in the Misty Sea, in the central continent, in front of the Tower of the End of the World, the Guardians stood under the tower, anxiously waiting for the result. Do you think Xia Xingchen can really pass the 99 floors of the Tower of the End of the World? It's hard to say. No one has ever made it to the ultimate trial before, let alone the Tower of the End of the World. I think maybe he can. After all, Lord Yusulan gave him his most important treasures, and he must be very optimistic about Xia Xingchen. I hope he can pass. The Guardians looked expectant in their eyes, and prayed silently for Xia Xingchen. Boom. Suddenly, the earth trembled. The huge Tower of the End of the World burst into a strong light, turning into a pillar of light that reached the sky, and then it collapsed, filled with smoke. A huge figure walked out from the thick smoke. It was Xia Xingchen, who was driving a mecha. He had a smile on his face, and held a metal plate in his hand. There were precise electronic patterns on it. It was the token of the 7th Legion of the Fallen. Xingchen, you passed the final test? Really? Captain Manla was surprised and hurried to meet him. Well, although it was not easy, I passed it after all. Xia Xingchen nodded, put away the metal plate, and smiled. It's just in time. Captain Manla, go and inform the other Guardians that they don't need to guard the Misty Sea anymore. Come with me. Let's go to the Milky Way first. The Eternal Protoss has begun to invade. There is a battle to fight. Okay. Captain Manla was very excited and hurried to tell the other Guardians the good news. Over the years, the Guardians have been guarding the Misty Sea and cannot leave. They have long felt very bored. When they heard that they could regain their freedom, they were all grateful to Xia Xingchen. Just as Xia Xingchen was about to lead the Guardians to leave, there was a whistling sound coming from the surrounding forests. Countless primitive people wearing animal skins and holding simple stone spears and stone axes rushed out of the forests and knelt down in front of Xia Xingchen. They were black and kept kowtowing, mumbling something indistinctly, as if they were praying. Humph. The Guardians looked at these primitive people, all with indifference. Captain Manla, are they? Xia Xingchen frowned slightly and asked. Yes, they are the once arrogant Huang people. Captain Manla said coldly, the Huang people destroyed everything of Lord Yusulan and have been chasing you. When Lord Yusulan became the commander of the 7th Legion, he came back for revenge. However, the Lord was very kind and did not exterminate the Huang people. Instead, he imprisoned them on this continent and gave them endless resources. The result, you also saw it. Are they really the Huang people? The top 10 peak races in the universe? Xia Xingchen was surprised. Yes. Only a few million years have passed, and the Huang people have degenerated to this extent. Their civilization has been completely forgotten by themselves, and they have become primitive people who eat raw meat and drink blood. In fact, the lowest race in the universe is the Huang people, who only know how to invade and plunder. Even if they are given resources, they cannot develop their own civilization, and they cannot even keep their civilization going. Manla whispered. That's really despicable. Xia Xingchen's eyes swept across countless barbarians with endless coldness. What are they praying for? In fact, the Tower of Doomsday is the cage of this misty sea continent. Only by passing through the Tower of Doomsday can the barbarians leave here. When Lord Yusulan built the Tower of Doomsday, he once said that whoever passes through the Tower of Doomsday will be the master of the Misty Sea. These barbarians should still remember Lord Yusulan's promise. They are praying for you to take them away from the Sea of Suffering. They are willing to be your slaves and fight for you. Captain Manla persuaded. Although the civilization of the barbarians has completely disappeared, they were once one of the top 10 races after all. Xingchen, you happen to have a fierce battle to fight. Otherwise, just take them as slaves and use them as cannon fodder. No need. I'm sure of winning this battle, so there is no need to bring these burdens. Besides, the Huang clan brought this upon themselves, so let them fend for themselves on this continent. This is the punishment they deserve. Xia Xingchen waved his hand, and in a flash, he disappeared with the Guardians. Chapter 1864 The eve of the decisive battle. Shiny and Star. Xingchen led the human mecha divisions, and waited in the starry sky. Carlos' eyes flashed red, and he kept calculating, whispering, here they come. The starship army of the eternal gods will be here soon. Hearing Carlos' words, everyone present felt their mouths dry, and kept swallowing saliva. This is the moment that determines the future fate of mankind, and everyone feels extremely nervous. However, Xia Xingchen still hasn't come back. Your Highness Princess Crossing, can you let me command this place? Carlos whispered, no matter what happens, I don't want you to get into trouble. Xingchen shook her head and said in a deep voice, Carlos, even if I'm not the Emperor of the Galactic Empire, I'm also a citizen of the Empire and a human being. Look at these human warriors, they are all willing to sacrifice their lives for the future of mankind. How can I retreat at this time? Carlos nodded and said, I understand. In the battle later, I will protect you as much as possible. Swish. A flash of light flashed in the dark starry sky, and a huge golden fleet appeared, which was the invincible army of the eternal gods. Hey, we finally found the humans. So they were all hiding here, preparing to ambush us. A strong man from the Eternal Protoss laughed. How ridiculous, they are just a bunch of ants, and they dare to resist. Someone immediately echoed. So strong. Just by feeling the terrifying energy fluctuations transmitted by the Eternal Protoss starship army, the strong human beings could hardly stand steadily, and their legs could not stop shaking. The gap in life level is really too big. The Eternal Protoss is an existence standing at the peak of heavenly beings, while humans are not yet heavenly beings. The gap between them is like the gap between prokaryotes and mammals in the ocean, with an incomparable huge gap. Humans are really a backward and weak race? What energy do they use? Nuclear energy. It's too primitive. It's really hard to imagine that such a weak race as humans can produce a super strong man like Xia Xingchen who stands at the top of the universe. Xia Xingchen uses the power of faith. Although these humans are ants, they are numerous enough to generate a large amount of power of faith. The reason why Xia Xingchen is powerful is that these humans continuously provide him with the power of faith. Once humans are exterminated and the power of faith is cut off, Xia Xingchen will be useless. Xia Xingchen has disappeared for decades. Maybe he has died in some remote secret place in the universe. The strong men of the Eternal God clan were full of contempt in their eyes. They glanced at the human mechas and starships with a strong disdain. In their opinion, the mechas that humans are proud of are too primitive and backward. Grant destruction to this humble race. The boundless voice of the Eternal Lord echoed in the universe. In an instant, the strong men of the Eternal Protoss were ready for battle, and terrifying energy fluctuations burst out from their bodies as if in protest. The energy fluctuation alone set off a shockwave, completely tearing the battle line of the human mecha division into pieces, and even some mecha divisions were unable to stand and flew backwards. Some mecha divisions could not bear the strong mental pressure, bleeding from all 7 orifices, and fainted. Before the battle officially began, humans began to show signs of defeat. Originally, when I heard Carlos say that the Eternal Protoss was terrifying, I thought he was exaggerating. Only after seeing it with my own eyes, did I realize that the enemy was not something we could defeat at all. The Angel of Light Michael showed a bitter smile on his old face. He only realized at this moment how big the gap was between him and the Eternal Protoss. Xingchen, have you been fighting such a terrifying enemy? The face of the Star Pirate King Roger was also uncertain. As proud as he was, he had to admit at this moment that the enemy's strength exceeded his expectations. Keela, Miyamoto Kenichi, Kirisa and others also changed their faces and were panic-stricken. At this moment, a figure appeared in front of the two armies. He looked ordinary, and there was no energy fluctuation on his body. His mental strength was also mediocre, just like an ordinary human. However, he did not drive a mecha, but suddenly appeared, standing in space with a human body, which showed his extraordinariness. Immediately, this figure attracted everyone's attention. Xingchen. Kinjana couldn't help but burst into tears when she saw this familiar figure. She was sure that she was not mistaken. This was the figure that she had been dreaming about countless nights and countless times. Xia Xingchen. Everyone. Xia Xingchen turned his head and scanned the familiar faces one by one and couldn't help but shed tears. It has been 30,000 years. Xia Xingchen missed them all the time on the battlefield of the end of time. Kinjana, Father, Keela, Miyamoto Kenichi, Kirisa. There were many times when Xia Xingchen couldn't hold on, but when he thought of these familiar faces, he gritted his teeth and stood up. Especially Kinjana. Xia Xingchen looked at Kinjana's figure, his vision blurred. However, with a powerful enemy at hand, Xia Xingchen knew that this was not the time to be sentimental. He took a deep breath, letting his heart become colder than a meteorite. He turned his head and looked at the army of the Eternal God Clan, with a smile on his lips. For many years, I have been fantasizing about this moment. Today, this moment has finally come true. Eternal God Clan, it's time to settle our grievances thoroughly. Xia Xingchen. The strong men of the Eternal God Clan saw the figure that appeared out of thin air, and their faces changed. The Eternal God Lord couldn't keep calm either. He stood up from his chair, with a look of astonishment on his face. He looked at Xia Xingchen with unbelievable eyes and said, "Cosmic God. How is it possible? He has become the Cosmic God. Even the Eternal God Lord himself is still a hair's breadth away from being a Cosmic God." He knew that becoming a Cosmic God was an extremely difficult thing. Therefore, he could not hide his surprise when he saw Xia Xingchen being promoted to a Cosmic God. My lord, he actually became a Cosmic God. Are we going to go to war with a Cosmic God? The Cosmic God is said to be an eternal and immortal existence. Although my clan has also produced several Cosmic Gods, it has been too long. The strong men of the Eternal God Clan were a little panicked. "What are you panicking about?" The Eternal God Lord shouted coldly. "What's the matter with the Cosmic God? He is just a person. What's more, my strength is about the same as that of the Cosmic God. With the technology and secrets of my clan, I'm enough to tangle with him for a while. Take this opportunity to destroy all human beings. Without the power of faith, he will definitely fall from the realm of Cosmic Gods. My Lord God is right. It's just one person. No matter how strong he is, he can never be the opponent of our great Eternal God Clan." The strong men of the Eternal God Clan felt relieved, and a cold smile appeared on their faces. Chapter 1865. The Legion arrives. Really? Xia Xingchen condensed the faith match, and 5 pairs of dazzling wings condensed behind his body. These wings were no longer the original pure gold, but were mixed with a hint of black destructive aura. At this moment, Xia Xingchen's eyes were extremely cold. and he could no longer suppress the murderous intent in his heart, wanting to kill the eternal god. After waiting for tens of thousands of years and experiencing countless dangers, Xia Xingchen had been waiting for this moment. Swish. The Faith Mech teleported continuously and directly arrived in front of the starship, where the eternal god was. At the same time, he waved his hand and condensed a space cage to completely block this space, to prevent the eternal god from escaping. After so many years of fighting, Xia Xingchen's understanding of the mystery of space has reached the point of perfection. In front of so many of my people, you actually want to kill me directly? Even if you are a god of the universe, you can't do it. The eternal god roared in a low voice, with madness flashing in his eyes, and a dazzling light burst out from his body. Boom. The energy burst out from the eternal god instantly shattered the space cage. Xia Xingchen raised his eyebrows slightly. The energy of the eternal god is very strong. Although it is at the cosmic level, it can compete with the gods of the universe. The eternal god must have many treasures on him. After all, the Eternal God clan is one of the 10 top races in the universe, and has a deep foundation. Xia Xingchen said coldly. Haha, you are worthy of being a cosmic god. You can tell at a glance that I have treasures on me. The Eternal God laughed wildly, his eyes crazy and cold. Xia Xingchen has been dealing with the Eternal God clan for a long time, and knows that the Eternal God clan is essentially a cruel and ruthless race. In order to maintain their status, the Eternal God clan has destroyed countless galaxies and exterminated countless races. Humans are just one of them. Xia Xingchen, I admit that you are very powerful. You are a cosmic god with extremely strong vitality. I can't kill you, but you can't kill me either. As long as I entangle you, the humans behind you will be destroyed by the warriors of the Eternal God clan. Hahaha, watching your own people being killed, this must be very uncomfortable. The Eternal God laughed. How shameless. Xia Xingchen shouted angrily, and a golden spear condensed in the hand of the Faith Mech, instantly turning into thousands of energy beams, stabbing at the Eternal God. Boom. The starship where the Eternal God was located exploded instantly. In the light and smoke, a figure flew out, and the Eternal God stood in midair, looking at Xia Xingchen coldly. Spiral flying drill, go. Xia Xingchen pointed his hand, and billions of silver spiral drills immediately condensed on the top of the mech, instantly piercing the figure of the Eternal God. However, the figure of the Eternal God dissipated like a bubble, and in an instant he appeared 10,000 meters away, looking at Xia Xingchen, and sneered. Xia Xingchen, give up, you can't kill me. Is it an illusion? Or? Xia Xingchen frowned slightly, and the omniscience field immediately spread out, instantly expanding into a sphere with a radius of light years. Everything that happened within the light year range could not escape Xia Xingchen's perception. This is the terrifying power of the cosmic god. It turned out to be a projection. Xia Xingchen's eyes showed a trace of contempt. The dignified Eternal Lord turned out to be a despicable guy who hides his head and shows his tail. The so-called projection is a technique often used by the gods of the universe. The main body is hidden in another cosmic dimension, and the body is projected into this universe to fight with others. To put it bluntly, this is a more advanced clone. However, the actual combat ability of the projection is stronger. For those who don't understand projection, they will think that the Eternal Lord is immortal. Because even if the projection is killed, as long as the Eternal Lord still has energy, it can be reprojected, almost endlessly. Knowing that it is a projection, what can it do? My main body is hidden in the multiverse. You can't find it at all. The Eternal Lord shouted. Ignorance. Xia Xingchen shook his head slightly, waved his hand, and threw out an eyeball, which was glowing with scarlet light. As soon as this red eyeball appeared, Xia Xingchen poured the power of faith in his body into it continuously, and a vast destructive energy surged from his pupils, directly blasting a big hole in the cosmic barrier. Xia Xingchen waved his hand, and a golden light flew in. After a while, the golden light turned into a chain, dragging out a figure from it. Surprisingly, it was the Eternal God Lord. The Eternal God Lord's face was full of disbelief, and there was obvious fear in his eyes. He screamed, "How do you know the coordinates of the multiverse where I'm hiding? I'm a fallen after all. Detecting dimensions based on fluctuations is the most basic fighting method. The void beasts and the endless void know how to hide much better than you do. Xia Xingchen stretched out his hand, and a golden light flew out of his palm, bombarding the Eternal God Lord's body, instantly turning him into pieces. Huh? Are there any clones? They are hidden quite deeply. Xia Xingchen raised his eyebrows and immediately realized that the energy fluctuations of the Eternal God Lord still existed in the deeper cosmic dimensions. But it doesn't matter. I will find them all and kill them one by one. Every time I kill them, you will have to endure the pain of death. Xia Xingchen's smile was cold and cruel. No. Xia Xingchen dragged the clones of the Eternal God from other dimensional universes and killed them one by one. The screams resounded through the starry sky and reached everyone's ears, making people feel chilled. Whether it was humans or the Eternal Gods in the starry sky, they were all stunned at this moment. You idiots. Don't just watch. Quickly catch some humans and threaten Xia Xingchen to stop. Otherwise, I will really be killed by him completely. The Eternal God screamed. The warriors of the Eternal Gods woke up from their dreams and flew towards their human positions. Fire! Fire! With the order of Marshal Claude, countless mechas and warships opened fire at the same time, and the entire starry sky turned into a sea of light. However, human weapons could not blast open the Eternal God's protective shield at all. All bullets and energy beams were isolated. The Eternal God's warriors were unharmed. Their eyes were full of cruel murderous intent, and they arrived at the position in a blink of an eye. A bloody massacre was about to unfold. Although Xia Xingchen was powerful, he was only one person after all. He could not protect the entire human race. Xia Xingchen, stop it quickly. Even if you can kill me, what can you do? Any warrior of the Eternal Gods can destroy humanity. No matter how powerful you are, you can't kill all the Eternal Gods. Give up. We can negotiate and make peace. Another clone of the Eternal God was cruelly killed by Xia Xingchen. He grabbed the last straw and tried his best to persuade. You really don't understand anything. Xia Xingchen shook his head, his eyes full of pity. This look was just like the feeling of the Eternal God when he looked at Xia Xingchen, just like the gods in the sky looking down on all living things. However, the situation has changed, and Xia Xingchen is looking at the Eternal God with this look at the moment. What don't you understand? The Eternal God's voice was trembling. You don't understand what the fallen are. Xia Xingchen shook his head, took out the token of the commander of the 7th Legion from the Tower of Doomsday, poured energy into it, and activated the token. But time and space were completely still at that moment. Everyone's body couldn't move, even their eyelids couldn't blink, only their minds could keep functioning. In the starry sky in front of Shinyuan Star, a mountain-like black shadow appeared, layer upon layer, which turned out to be countless black armored warriors gathered together. The faces of these warriors were blurred, and their forms were different. They were not human beings, but the top warriors of countless races in countless cosmic dimensions. They had one thing in common, which was the cold killing intent emanating from their bodies. Cosmic gods. Are all these fallen angels cosmic gods? The warriors of the Eternal Gods felt the extraordinary energy fluctuations from the fallen angels, and their hearts were filled with panic and fear. The 7th Legion of the Fallen Angels, following the call. Commander, where are our enemies? Countless fallen angel warriors knelt on one knee in front of Xia Xingchen, with an extremely respectful attitude. Chapter 1866 The End of the Universe. Those eternal Protoss are our enemies. Xia Xingchen said in a stern voice. Sir, are you going to destroy them? The fallen waited for orders. Capture them alive. Xia Xingchen ordered calmly. Yes, sir. The shadows suddenly dispersed and flew towards the eternal Protoss warriors. The fierce battle that the human mecha masters had expected did not happen. Just as humans were no match for the eternal Protoss had no power to fight back in front of the fallen. As the fallen flew by, the eternal Protoss warriors were bound together by circles of light and could not move. This was not only a crushing of the power level, but also a crushing of the life level. In less than 3 minutes, the eternal Protoss huge army of starships was annihilated. Sir, the enemies have all been captured alive. A fallen sergeant came to report. Well, very good. Xia Xingchen nodded and said, not just them, I hope there will not be even one eternal god clan in the universe. Yes, sir. The figures of the fallen gradually faded and disappeared in the universe. A sensational event occurred in the universe. Overnight, the Eternal God Clan, one of the top 10, completely disappeared. The huge and vast Eternal Empire also collapsed overnight and disappeared without a trace. After losing the upper level leaders, the middle and lower level races of the Eternal Empire fought for power for 1,500 years, which was later called the Millennium War. Except for a very small number of advanced races, no one knows what happened to the Eternal God Clan. The only thing that can be confirmed is that the Eternal God Clan must have offended some extremely terrifying power, so they suddenly disappeared. However, the Eternal God Clan is already one of the top 10 races in the universe, standing firmly at the top of the universe. What kind of terrifying force can make the Eternal God Clan disappear overnight? For a time, the advanced races in the heavenly human realm were all in danger, and they gathered their forces to avoid offending this terrifying existence. Milky Way, Xia and Star. Xia Xingchen sat leisurely on a bench in the back garden of the Imperial Palace, with one hand around Xingchen's slender waist. The beauty in his arms also had a sweet face, closing her eyes and enjoying the hard-won quiet moment. Xia Xingchen was extremely satisfied at this moment. Others can enjoy the moment at any time, but Xia Xingchen has waited for countless times and experienced countless hardships. Ordinary scenes have appeared countless times in Xia Xingchen's dreams. This relationship has also been brewed incomparably sweet by the long time. A few months later, Xingchen, the Emperor of the Galactic Empire, abdicated and announced the end of the imperial system that had lasted for thousands of years and implemented a republican system. The Galactic Empire was renamed the Galactic Republic from then on, and the president was elected by the citizens of the Republic. In addition, the mining system was completely abolished, and all citizens of the Republic were equal and could enjoy the civil rights of the Republic. Not only humans, but also aliens can apply to become citizens of the Republic and have the same status as humans. This reform was very powerful, and it can be said that it directly shook the foundation of the Galactic Empire. Many imperial nobles were very dissatisfied. However, Xia Xingchen personally stood up and expressed his willingness to become the first president of the Galactic Republic. These opposing voices died down immediately. Xia Xingchen was not good at politics. He stood up to become the first president of the Republic, just for the sake of a title. Most of the work was still handled by Xingchen. It was not an easy task to carry out such a huge social change. Even with the help of Carlos, all the changes were taken into account, eliminating the possibility of humans continuing to take detours. Xingchen was busy for a few more years before the situation in the Republic stabilized. 4 years later, Xia Xingchen resigned from the post of President of the Republic in accordance with the Constitution of the Republic. The next president was elected by a referendum and democratic election. Xingchen, we are finally free. In the faith mecha, Xingchen looked at the Milky Way getting farther and farther away from her, her eyes full of longing for the future. For Xingchen, her happiest moment was the 3 years she roamed in the Milky Way with Xia Xingchen. Those 3 years were carefree, and she followed Xia Xingchen to adventure in the starry sky. Every day was full of novelty, and every day was a new day. This is the life Xingchen longed for. In fact, Xingchen didn't care where she was, or what her identity was. She just wanted to be with Xia Xingchen. Xia Xingchen was the same. Xingchen, where are we going now? The Heaven Realm? Xingchen asked. Go see Master, and then I'll take you around the universe. Xia Xingchen smiled and stroked Xingchen's dark and smooth hair. The top of the Green Mountain. In the pavilion. Xingchen, Jaina, come and have a drink. Bahuang was very happy. Looking at the two human men and women in front of him, the more he looked, the happier he became. Xingchen, it's really not easy for you to change the future. You are now a god of the universe and the commander of the 7th Legion of the Fallen Angels. Even I envy you very much. Bahuang stood up and poured wine for Xia Xingchen himself. Master, I can be where I'm now, all thanks to your cultivation. Xia Xingchen said hurriedly. Haha, I didn't do anything. Bahuang laughed. I also saw your battle with the Eternal God Lord with my own eyes. That level of battle is beyond my understanding. By the way, how are you going to deal with the Eternal God clan? Just like the Desolate clan, give them the best resources, but imprison them in a closed universe. Xia Xingchen took a sip of wine and said lightly. Just imprisonment? Isn't it a bargain for them? Xingchen said, puzzled. Jaina, this is what you don't know. For a race like the Eternal God Clan, imprisonment is the greatest punishment for them. Bahuang understood what Xia Xingchen meant and explained. Oh, I still don't quite understand. Please guide me, teacher. Xingchen asked. It would be easy for Xingchen to destroy the Eternal God Clan. However, he didn't do so. He just imprisoned the Eternal God Clan and gave them a lot of resources. Xingchen did this for the sake of mankind. If he destroyed the Eternal God Clan, how would other races in the universe view humans? Would they think that humans are a cruel and ruthless race? Bahuang said. That's indeed the case. Xingchen nodded. Humanity will leave the Milky Way sooner or later. Xia Xingchen nodded and looked at Bahuang deeply. Bahuang knew him best. Besides, with the experience of the Huang clan, I think the Eternal Clan will not be able to break out of the universe in the end. Even if they have more resources, they will slowly die out. The Eternal Clan thinks they are superior and are so arrogant that they use eternity as a name. After 10,000 years, I want to see how low they will degenerate to. Xingchen, you are really thoughtful. Xingchen looked up at her husband with admiration in her eyes. Teacher, I came to see you this time, first of all, to say goodbye to you. Xia Xingchen drank the wine in the glass, was silent for a moment, and said, I know. Bahuang nodded. You are the commander of the 7th Legion. You must return to the battlefield of the end. Go, you will definitely return victorious. The second thing. Xia Xingchen was very grateful. I hope the teacher can open the galaxy barrier of the Milky Way. Any race needs to communicate with the outside world in order to develop. Closing off will only lead to death. The same is true for humans. Open the barrier? Aren't you afraid that humans will be invaded and destroyed by other alien races? Bahuang looked surprised. Flowers in the greenhouse will wither sooner or later. Only after experiencing wind and rain can they bloom more beautifully. What's more, I left an avatar on Shineon Star, which can protect the safety of mankind for 10,000 years. There are also many technologies. After 10,000 years, mankind should have developed to the peak of ancient mankind. Xia Xingchen said. It seems that you have arranged everything. Bahuang nodded. Then I won't say much. The future of the stars and the universe is in your hands. Teacher, goodbye. Xia Xingchen nodded, said goodbye to Bahuang, and left the top of Xingchen with Xingchen. Xingchen, where are we going next? Xingchen asked, leaning in Xia Xingchen's arms. To the future, where everything ends. Xia Xingchen said. What is it like there? Is it the same as our universe? Is it scary? Xingchen asked continuously. Don't worry, I'll take care of everything. Xia Xingchen held Xingchen in his arms, driving the mecha, tearing out a space door with flashing black light with his hands, passing through the door, and walking towards the end of the universe. This is the responsibility of the fallen. It is also the responsibility of the commander of the 7th Legion. In the future, there are many cruel wars waiting for Xia Xingchen. However, this time is different. Because Xia Xingchen is no longer alone. The end of the play. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.